Hey, this is Tony Ross from TonyTeach.com, and I am honored and just a little bit giddy that we have a special guest for our channel today. This is Liza Desyatkova. I hope I am pronouncing that correct. And I found her because she had posted on LinkedIn this rig, this really beautiful rig done in Harmony Premium. And I wanted to actually bring her on TonyTeach and have her talk about this a little bit. And you can actually go on Gumroad. We'll actually have the link in the description as well as on the drop-down cards. You can go and download this, and it's really cool. Which, by the way, if you are a follower of mine, this is my request of you. And she did not tell me to do this, but this is my request. It's pretty much she's got it set at 0, or you can kind of name your price. Okay, so if 100 of you guys, at least minimum of 100, I've got a couple thousand followers. So if a minimum of 100 people decide to go and grab this and send her $2, that would be really cool. I'm just saying, like, go ahead and do that. That'd be awesome. Anyway, I'm rambling here. So, Lisa, the throne is yours.
Hi, that was really sweet. But yeah, the rig that I made is on Gumroad. It's for free. I made it so that there were like more accessible like rig options online because there were many. I'm also a rigger right now for Mercury Filmworks, and I'm also a student at the same time. So I'm just working during the summer, but I've also worked at Brown Bag, so I'm like a student, but I've also have like industry experience working.
Okay.
But I'm also just starting out, so I'm not really an expert. I just to make stuff.
Well, here's the thing. There's always funny when people say, "Well, I'm not an expert." It's like you know more than a lot of people. So that's like. But
then you also know people who know a lot more than you.
Well, yes.
And you're like, those are the people you look up to.
Oh, definitely. I think that's the one good thing if you're if you're just constantly looking to improve, there's always going to be that. So.
Yeah.
So while you're doing that, I did want to actually run some questions by you.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I'll let you talk about the rig first, and then I'll ask you some questions.
Okay. Well, all right. I'll talk about this rig that I made. First, I wanted to talk about what a 360 rig is in the first place. Okay. There's like a lot of different like approaches to rigging, and like especially with Toon Boom, there's no one way to do something. So like between every studio and between every like hobbyist, you'll see like so many different like techniques of approaching stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's like awesome and insane, and that's why Toon Boom is so cool. And 360 rigs are kind of something that started popping up as a new technique ever since like deformers were like properly implemented into Toon Boom. And it essentially means that the rig rotates like 360 degrees whilst using the same pieces. So not a lot of drawing substitutions. It's all just like almost like all the poses are almost just sculpted using like the deformers. And this is really useful for situations where you want like to get like to tween into really subtle actions, or you want, hold on, here I posed her out so that she's kind of like a down view, and this isn't as easy to achieve with a rig that doesn't have as many deformers unless you do like drawing substitutions and stuff.
Okay.
It's also like really nice for stuff that's like complex posing and like stuff like that. I wanted to show, not here. So, like, a few people actually animated it, which was really cool. This animator got like a lot of like little subtle stuff by using like the eyes, which is really nice. And this one kind of achieved like a head rotation with it.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's cool. But
I when I was first looking at the rig, even the folder, not folder, the sweater fold was really a nice little touch that I thought was added in there.
yeah, there's so many ways to do hands. It's always when I make like a new rig, I'm always like I spend so much time thinking about how I'm gonna like approach the hands, because like the way that you do it affects how like all those pieces get animated. And like for this like situation specifically, I wanted to use I don't usually use an auto patch, or try not to, but I wanted to use an auto patch so that it was like more accessible, because a lot of like beginners are kind of used to the auto patch, but I still wanted the functionality of kind of getting a really unique fold that you can like redraw or deform, because I think like how you treat like the arms in a rig really affects how puppety it looks, because usually when you're like working with the rig, you're kind of trying not to make it look like a rig.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you want it to look kind of like, make it look like it has form, and it's not working like a paper doll, like this is boring. But if you can like kind of make it have some form, that's kind of what 360 rigs are all about.
Okay.
Yeah. For, I guess like specifically, like I'll just like quickly like run through like the small like functionalities that I've added through the rig. The eyes, you can kind of set up. You don't have to like redraw the eyes. You can like make your own blinks, and this helps a lot with. You can like play with the timing of blinks and stuff. You can adjust that.
Oh wow. Okay, I didn't even see the lashes before. That was
Really?
well. It's like I was so busy looking at the way the eyes were masked and everything, and yeah, I started doing the little rotation and like making it like if she's angry, or I was like, oh, this is really cool. But I didn't realize like I could move the lashes as well. I was like, okay.
Yeah, because when you lift up the thing really high here, it kind of gets stuck in the ether here. Mm-hmm. So I've purposely put like the peg in the middle of the eye, so you can just essentially rotate it and it'll like line up with the circular form of the eye. Because usually people's first instinct is to put the peg like over here.
Right.
And I have to go, and that takes more time. Like this is like the hidden art of rigging. Like if you can change the pivot in a slight way, or make a setup and peg something in a certain way where it like removes like a half second of like time for the animator, and if you can do that all throughout the rig, then that's kind of where things start being more like effective. Yeah. It's like when you're rigging, you really have to think of like an animator.
Okay.
Because then if the rig is like always fighting against you, and you're always like you have to like adjust things and stuff a lot, then you're not really like animating with flow. You're kind of like fighting something, and you want the animator to fight as little with the rig and just enjoy like posing it.
Okay.
But that's the philosophy of it.
So when I looked at this, I think there was about I counted like maybe 53 layers or so. Would you consider this to be a basic rig or a medium?
It's a pretty like heavy rig. I made her design like on the simpler side just so that it wouldn't be any bigger than this. It's like a medium 360 rig, but in terms of like all rigs, this is a considerably heavy one because it has so many deformers, and it turns like green soup when you turn them all on. But it does have like a lot of the pieces separated and stuff like that. It's just like one way of like approaching stuff. Sometimes it makes a lot more sense to go with a much simpler rig with a lot less deformers and a lot less stuff broken down and just to focus on redraw. Sometimes the situation calls for that way more because like animating with a 360 rig could be more time consuming. And it just kind of like depends on like what you want to achieve with your animation and like if you're in a production, like how much time do you have, etc.
Right.
Yeah, because it actually takes a lot longer to rig a character like this than like a simpler rig because there's a lot of steps to it. And it's more like I wanted to post it online so that people like know like here's one of the options out there. You know, there's not one way to approach like your rigging or whatever. Like I'd also want to like later on like make another one that's more on the simpler side so that when people were rigging they could kind of almost have a choice of approaches and not just kind of do things because this is what tells them how to do things, you know?
Right.
But yeah.
So I have a question. Out of rigging or character design or animating, do you have a favorite? And if so, why?
I enjoy all of them. I guess rigging I'm like technically the most proficient in, but like I'm always like trying to get better at all of it. I'm not like specifically like I don't like do character design in a specific manner. Like I just like to draw and stuff. So I don't know if I'd ever plan on like being a designer specifically. But like for like rigging and animating, like I've been trying to like animate more in my free time and stuff like that. So I can't like choose a favorite because all of them have so much like value, you know?
Definitely.
Like essentially when I learned how to rig, my character design got a lot better because I knew how to design characters that were riggable because I knew the context of rigging, which is like a weird thing to say, but it essentially helped me draw better. And then when I learned how to animate, I learned how to rig better. And when I learned how to rig, I learned how to animate better. Like it's all like kind of like interconnected, and that's kind of how I see things. So I don't like saying like, oh, I'd rather do this for the rest of my life because none of it would be that good in the long run if I didn't like show interest and like participate in all three or even more, not just character design, but just like all the different like kinds of art, like layout and just illustration, stuff like that.
Awesome. My next question, what is your favorite tool in Harmony?
The master controller is growing on me. I actually, I think it's like, here I have this other rig that I built for like another project I worked on. It's called Beep and Tweet. But it's like so satisfying seeing his head move. It's like, it's so fun. Do you see it?
I do see it. Yeah, that is. I saw the short, and I was like, that is really sweet.
Yeah, the master controllers, people are really starting to use it a lot more now, and like the results are just getting better and better. And I don't know, like I had a lot of fun like actually animating with it. It made things so much easier. Especially in this situation, it's perfect because the robot kind of has this like unforgiving perspective of like when like his like spherical head turns around,
Right.
and like you kind of have to get it right when you're posing him, or else it's going to like it's not going to look like a sphere. And it just like took a lot of weight off my team's shoulders to kind of have all those poses like in there instead of constantly sending like revisions about how people's like it might have turned out like wonkier if this wasn't here.
Now, when you set up this, how many grids or how many poses is this based off of?
Poses, I think it was 47.
Okay.
It was a nightmare.
I was about to say, because that looks incredibly, ridiculously smooth. That is beautiful.
Yeah, I think it had one here. I think it had like, it was so many. I also didn't use the flip tool at all because I didn't want, technically when you're animating, when you want the head to go from here to here, you usually like use the flip tool to kind of like simulate the movement. I didn't even like want to deal with that at all. Like I didn't want, because I knew that his head would do so many like subtle movements like this and like this and stuff. And I wanted people just focus on that subtlety instead of kind of finagling the movement to work.
Okay.
But it was honestly a lot of work. I really like didn't leave my room for a really long time until it was done. But yeah, it was like a really satisfying thing to finish. Also, another, yeah, wait, you were saying?
Oh, no, keep going.
I was going to say that, like, my favorite tools, I just want to give a shout out to the script editor, because Toon Boom, you can actually, like, make your own tools in Toon Boom and stuff, and you don't have to rely on just what Toon Boom gives you, and you can do that through the script editor. It uses JavaScript. I don't know, it's really cool. Not a lot of people like know that it exists or know that you can use scripts in the first place, but there's like so many like little like things that help your workflow that you can like add.
Sweet. Now, do you know JavaScript, or do you know people
I've like written a few of my own. Let's see. Let me quickly show. I have all these nodes, and they're all like kind of scattered here. And then there's, I have a script that aligns them immediately. Cool. That one, they're mostly like scripts that are pretty easy to write, so I'm not like a big brain scripter, but like I kind of like picked it up, and like I also have a lot of help from people who like did know how like a lot more about it, and that was helpful. But I also have one that automatically plugs stuff down into the composite. I use this one a lot when I'm like first starting a rig, and I kind of like quickly set up like my composites really fast. I've written like a few others, but those are the ones that I like use the most that are mine. I use a lot of other people's scripts as well. There's one for like copying, pasting pivots. Here, this one kind of like spaces out spaces out your nodes like perfectly and stuff.
Okay.
And like it's like really nice. I think it works really well. But the script editor, like just finding scripts online, if people are interested, I'd tell them to go look into that.
Sweet. So you're working with Mercury, which I normally tell people that, good grief, you guys there are like, you are doing the infomercials for Toon Boom, or the stuff you guys are doing is just like, you look at it and you're like, holy crap, that is beautiful. So my question would be, how have your views changed on animation from when you started college versus now?
I actually well, first off, I've only been working at Mercury for like 2 weeks. So I'm just learning like their Mercury magic with rigging and stuff, and like becoming familiar with that, which is really cool. But I for college, I went to like animation college for kind of a very utilitarian reason, which, well, like I knew that I wanted to go into the arts because I kind of like grew up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted my career to be something with the arts. So, but there was like so many options. There was like video game, like concept art. There was like illustration. There was like fine arts. And I felt like I wasn't like a big animation geek, but I felt like learning animation gives you so many like skills no matter what, like knowing timing and knowing how to draw things consistently, and drawing layouts, and it's a very like generalist thing. If you know how to animate, you're kind of a generalist and you can take any path that you'd want to take. And I knew that if I like went through the course, I didn't necessarily have to be an animator, but I'd have the skills to like do whatever I ended up wanting to do after I graduated. And like I never even like knew about rigging or stuff like that when I first got to college, but this is kind of where my path developed, just through like finding different interests and like finding more about what I wanted to do. And like I learned to appreciate animation like a lot more than when I started, because I almost was learning like its worth for the first time when I came in. And so that's been like a really good experience. But yeah.
Cool. So would you say that your influences, your animation influences, would you say they are classical or more contemporary?
I have like so many like different influences that are like not like across the spectrum. Just there are a lot of like artists online that I really enjoy and appreciate. I think what initially got me into rigging was like when I saw Hilda, and kind of that has been like a huge inspiration for me, both stylistically and like animation and rigging wise. There's like a lot of TV shows that I really like. Midnight Gospel, stuff that's not even like particularly rigged or anything like that. I think I like grew up with a lot of SpongeBob, so I really like kind of wacky, like stretchy animation that can transform. Adventure Time's like a good example of that too.
Okay.
So I guess it's more on the contemporary side. I'm not like a big like I know I hear a lot of people being like, oh, Looney Tunes and stuff, but I think I just like, because of me getting into animation later into the game, I kind of learned to appreciate stuff that I was kind of happening more contemporarily. And that's just a matter of like how things end up going. But yeah.
Awesome. All right, I think I do have one last question for you, and this is this looking at the character, the Charlotte character here versus the robot. If you were going to redo the robot today, what would you change? Or would you change anything?
He's super complicated. There's like little things that I'd probably fix, or like probably find someone to help me figure out. Like I think every rig always has like a little bit that could be better. Like when you're doing like rigs that are with no line, you get a lot of anti-aliasing issues. So you kind of have, technically the shadow is a lot marginally thicker than it should be. It's kind of hard to notice here, but I think some pieces I would try to figure out a better way to approach. Probably like the shell thing here. During production, some of the stuff like broke with Z depth, not a lot, but it's like there was like a specific issue, so I'd probably try to troubleshoot that. I might, right here, there's, when you're like grabbing something initially, you can't actually see that you're grabbing it because the gradient is like physically blocking your ability to see the node being highlighted.
Oh, wow.
Probably change like the way the gradient is set up so that there is like a physical thing showing you. I've considered releasing him online before, but I was really scared of people running into the small issues and getting really frustrated by it and like thinking that the rig was bad.
Totally. I get that, because it's like it's you sometimes honestly have to say, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? Or you can say, hey, this is as is, we're working on this, or this is in beta. So that's what I typically will do. It's like, we're like, yeah, this is released, but we're in beta right now. So if you run into issues, let us know. So in that weather.
There's a certain like vulnerability with like putting like a rig online.
Yes, there is.
Especially if you're like, hey, I'm a rigger and I'm sharing this with you, then I feel like I'm with the people who like download it and they actually know what they're doing. They can kind of like see what's wrong with it. And I feel like once you put it out there, you can like, it's kind of under scrutiny. And I think I just want something to be like really like easy to use before I put it online. Yeah. Just that people don't get so confused and weird, but yeah.
Point taken. So can you show me a little bit about the mouth and some of the changes you made?
So also this is a rigged mouth and all the pieces of it are separate and it has a lot of deformers and it's kind of like a complex way to make a mouth, but I just wanted to throw it in the rig just to show people that the option is there. And kind of when you know like the extreme of like how far you can like push a rigged mouth or rigged anything, then like it's a lot easier for other people to simplify it in their own situations. And I also like kind of learned with a 360 rig and a rigged mouth and stuff, and I wanted to give other people the experience of like how I learned. The nice thing with like rigged mouths and stuff is that it's like kind of flexible with the tweening, so you're not really limited by like a very strict drawing substitution,
right?
And kind of just be lazy with the drawing and just kind of tween it to kind of go into like what direction you want it to go. And it also helps a lot with like reusing different mouth shapes and stuff. Essentially, you'd just be grabbing it from the timeline and kind of pasting it right into like your different poses. But yeah, that's that. I also forgot to mention that the hands have like a few different substitutions on them. that like kind of have different arm setups and stuff. Mm-hmm. So the main one, it's kind of like a standard auto patch, it's separated into two pieces. The second one, it's actually one singular piece, and it's like an envelope to form around the whole thing. And this is nice for like foreshortening stuff and other situations where you don't really want to deal with the two pieces and you just want like a straight line and you don't want to deal with like the hookups. That's kind of the idea of that one. And the last one, it's just a line deformer. It's good for like more simple animation if you don't have to make the arms do something really wacky and weird, then you don't want to spend time like finagling with a lot of stuff. So it's nice to just have this thing going for it. And it's the same for the legs as well. So they all have the same setups.
Nice.
And yeah. And those are the things with the rig.
Coolness. Well, again, I want to thank you so much for taking time to actually show this off. And again, people, that you can actually get the rig on Gumroad. I've got the link in the description as well as in the pop-up little slides. So definitely take that a look. Oh, wow, that is cool that you just blew the eye up that quick. That's that's neat looking.
Yeah, that's another fun thing with 360 rigs. You can really just make a new character, like, really, or just rigs in general. It doesn't have to be 360, but you can just like enlarge one thing, and then it's like just a new character altogether. I think that's really funny.
I love where you for the lids. I love where you put the pivots. It's brilliant. It's like it's so dynamic at that point.
Oh, yeah. You can just, that's what I learned at like the last production that I worked on. It's like just like for eyebrows, for eyelids, you kind of like put them like at a point near this part because it usually goes like this or like this. And if it were in the middle, then you kind of have to spend an extra time adjusting and stuff. But,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice little detail.
Sweet. All right. So this has been Tony Ross with TonyTeach.com with our special guest, Liza Desyatkova. And I'm hoping I did that right this time. So, any closing words?
Keep on rigging or animating or
I love
existing.
Awesome. All right, guys. Make art, not excuses. So go make something. Have a good one. Say bye.
Bye.